Hello again. For anybody who happened to have seen the previous attempt at a live stream, we were having some technical difficulties, and hopefully we've got them sorted out now. So I'm going to do this devotional again, and so the words will be slightly different, but it'll be the same gist, and hopefully it'll come across properly. Anyways, God bless you wherever you are. We've been working our way through Proverbs chapter 9, and we find ourselves in verse 7 today. And just going to do this, run through this again. And as I said, apologies to anybody who's already seen this. Uh, Verse 7 says, "He who corrects a scoffer gets dishonor for himself, and he who reproves a wicked man gets insults for himself." In chapter 9 of Proverbs, we see this sort of a three-part breakdown to the chapter. The first part of the chapter is saying, here's this image of wisdom as a woman calling out to you and saying, "Come into my house for supper." And she's done all this stuff to prepare her house for supper with you. And you can go and join her and then have a great life and have a better life. The last part of the chapter is foolishness as a woman coming out and also inviting you into her house for supper. And of course, if you join her, then it's disaster. It's terrible. And in the middle, there's this section kind of focusing on the idea of what kind of person is going to answer which call. Or, this kind of person is going to be the one that goes with wisdom, and this is going to be the kind of person that goes with foolishness. And so that's kind of the center section. That's what we're just entering here in verse 7, where it says, and I'll just say it again, where it says, "He who corrects a scoffer gets dishonor for himself. He who reproves a wicked man gets insults for himself." And so there's this idea, it's describing the kind of person that's just not going to listen to wisdom. It doesn't care what wisdom says. It's going to go and join the fool. And it's that kind of person, a scoffer, the wicked person. And very often you get this kind of, throughout the book of Proverbs, and a lot of time in the Bible, you'll find these dual statements that go together, where they're trying to give you a kind of a rounded picture of a subject by making two statements that are very similar to show you the different kind of angles. And so here we get this idea, the scoffer, if you correct the scoffer, then you get dishonor, is the same as reproving the wicked, you get insults. And it kind of equates this idea, the scoffer and the wicked person, it's kind of the same person. And that's why we often say in Proverbs, one of the teachings of Proverbs is that wisdom is not merely about making good, efficient choices. It's about making good moral choices. And so scoffing and wickedness kind of go together. They're joined. Wisdom and right and honesty, righteousness are together. And scoffing or foolishness and wickedness are together, and they kind of paint this picture of a person that this kind of person that when you come to them to correct them because they're on the wrong path in some way and they don't have a wisdom, and so you come to give them that wisdom. Well, they're the kind of person that scoffs, right? So this kind of person that isn't open, right? The scoff or the wicked, they're not open to that. They don't have a part of them that is willing to receive the correction or the reproof. They're a scoffer. They're just closed. There's someone that's already decided things and they have no interest in input whatsoever. They've decided out of their instincts or their desires that this course of action or this way of living is what they want, and they just make fun of anybody else and they just dismiss anybody else because they're closed and they don't want that input. They've already decided before any debate can even open up what they think on a thing. It's a person who lacks wisdom and relies instead on emotion and tone and that kind of argumentation rather than on a good argument, rather than on good information that you can sort of assess it. And let's reason together. No, they're not interested. They're instead interested in just yelling and shouting and making memes. Right? Anything that's emotionally based, anything that's going to create a kind of a sense of tone rather than examining the actual evidence or the thoughts. And that's what the scoffer, the wicked person is like. They're just going to turn away from wisdom. So they're going to turn to attacks and insults. And so these people, if you try and show them that they're making a mistake or that they made an error or that they need to be corrected, they're more likely to insult you for your trouble than they are to grow in any way from your trouble. And that coupling of ideas, the scoffer and the wicked person, right? The evil person, right? The wicked person is very much like that too. Whereas the fool may be more because he's just not bright. the wicked person because they just aren't moral. They don't want to be reproved. They don't want to be told they're not moral. So they will suppress wisdom for similar reasons. They'll suppress their conscience, that part of them that would lead them to a proper moral place. They'll suppress that. They'll be offended by anybody who tells them that they're not righteous. That they'll see as righteousness as being an internal thing, that they are automatically righteous because it's me. And so you're going to come and reprove me? Well, who do you think you are? And then the insult comes, right? Because they're not really open to the discussion. They don't want the discussion. They have decided they are righteous because it's me. And so they will insult you. You're wrong because it's you. And so here comes the insult. And that kind of thinking, it's incredibly destructive to their lives. But it's very, very difficult to penetrate that. In fact, you can't get past that. That person has decided, rather than conversation, they want to reduce the conversation to merely a verbal exchange of insults and anger, and that's it, and dishonor, right? So it's just not worth it. So the kind of the lesson here, you might say, in this verse, and the one to follow says something similar. They're kind of saying, when it comes to trying to reason with a scoffer or with the person who's morally bankrupt, there's not really any point to it. They are so closed. All that you'll get for your trouble is insults and dishonor. You won't achieve your goal of trying to bring them to a better place. You will only experience pain for your trouble. That's what the verse is saying. Now, that doesn't mean we never try. There's sometimes it's like, well, hope against hope. I'm going to try and help you see better. And there is a value to a warning, even if a person doesn't accept it. And so we should sometimes we should try and help, but we need to have an understanding that it's very unlikely that it's going to come to any kind of fruitful outcome. And more likely, you're just going to end up suffering a bit of insult and for your trouble. And that's the warning here. It's also a warning to anyone reading the book. Don't be like that. Don't be the person that's like that and that walks into the fool's house instead of into the house of wisdom. The house of wisdom, you'll find yourself corrected, because that's what wisdom is. In the fool's house, you don't have to worry about being corrected, but you'll be in the category of scoffer and wicked person. Well, there's the warning. Anyway, God bless you. Have a good day. Pursue wisdom, and God will help you find it.